For decades, Rolex has been the pinnacle of prestige, charging 5 figures for timepieces that symbolized power, legacy, and elite status. So why is the luxury market collapsing and Rolex caught in the crossfire? Over the last 2 years, the once booming secondary market for Rolex watches has imploded. The second-hand Rolex index, which was once rising like a rocket, has now crashed over 30% since its peak in March 2022. Collectors who treated their watches like investments are now witnessing value draining daily, and this collapse is allegedly driven by a much darker truth.
You pay $4,400 for a Hermès Tudor Black Bay monochrome. You pay almost $10,000 for a Rolex America. And a Royal Oak extra thin, it costs like $36,000. Cheap is not a word that applies.
The watch is often blurred. However, when you come to Guangzhou, you cannot see any problem just by looking at the appearance. What you need to be careful about is that the low quality movement inside will be sold at a high price.
My suggestion is you can try it first or buy it for a legal way. I'm Sean. See you next time.
95% of the world's watches are made here, including the one you're wearing right now. Many big brand watches are produced or sourced for parts from here. This place is Shenzhen City, the world watch capital city. And in Shenzhen, you must not miss this factory.
Asking y'all should receive. Tisa, where are the watch manufacturers? I did some digging and I found the watch manufacturers. There is a new scandal coming out of the luxury watch division. Listen, if you want to keep going to Rolex, if you want to keep going to AP and spending your money, go and do that. However, industry insiders are coming out, and I have their videos. People have even been fired from it for lifting the hood away from the...
The reality is far from luxurious, according to Chinese manufacturers who are now speaking out and pulling back the curtain on what truly goes into those Swiss masterpieces. If what they're saying is accurate, Rolex may not only be responding to market forces, but also frantically trying to hide an empire built on branding smoke and mirrors and the fallout that has only just begun for decades. The luxury watch market has been dominated by Rolex, and while their costs have only increased, they are currently declining. According to rumors, Rolex has quietly reduced the prices of a few models, with savings approaching 10%. To experts in the industry, this is a clear warning sign that Rolex doesn't offer discounts, even though it may appear subtle to outsiders. Since the beginning, the rule has been that if prices are declining, it's because something is broken and they're attempting to fix it before anyone discovers. However, the worst part is that everyone has already. Price cuts for Rolex were observed.
Watches come in different sizes. A small dial makes your wrist slimmer, while a larger one makes you a stronger area. First of all, you need to determine your budget range. The Rolex data dress is the best choice for cost effect.
Since 2022, Rolex watch resale prices have crashed, with some models falling more quickly than cryptocurrency. Once a gold mine has become a graveyard, collectors are selling their pieces in droves, panicking over values that seem to drop weekly, and Rolex's response, rather than remaining firm as they always have, is allegedly flinching. Insiders believe the cuts aren't a calculated adjustment, but rather a desperate pivot to maintain brand relevance in a landscape that is beginning to question everything, because the problem isn't just supply and demand, but rather trust, and that trust is about to be shattered. The illusion of luxury is collapsing, and it is being dismantled by the very people who helped build it in a stunning expose that has gone viral across global platforms. Chinese producers of fake Rolex components have come out and said they have been secretly manufacturing parts for some of the world's most prestigious luxury brands, including Rolex. These aren't tabloid rumors, these are verified factory workers, contract engineers, and supply chain insiders pulling receipts, and the claims brutal. They allege that Rolex and other so-called handcrafted watchmakers aren't nearly as exclusive or authentic as they lead customers to believe. According to these manufacturers, components like bezels, clasps, and even cases have been outsourced for years, with Swiss facilities serving more as assembly lines than artisanal workshops. Let that sink in, though. Brand that has long bragged about its legacy of in-house craftsmanship may have been slapping Swiss labels on parts made thousands of miles away. And here's the real kicker: these same manufacturers are now going direct to consumer. They've allegedly launched their own platforms selling Rolex's identity crisis. Nearly identical pieces, minus the Rolex logo, for a fraction of the price. So now Rolex isn't just losing reputation, they're facing a new wave of competition from the very hands that used to Feed them, this isn't just brand erosion, it's brand betrayal, and Rolex, they might have just been caught in the biggest luxury lie of the decade. But the backlash doesn't stop there. Once held as the gold standard of craftsmanship, Rolex is now facing an identity crisis, and it's unraveling fast. For years, Rolex made use of perception's power. Because of the production exposure, people are waking up and raising unpleasant concerns about the renowned Swiss Ade mark, which was formerly a badge of honor that suggested unmatched creativity and historic perfection. What percentage of Rolex watches are made in Switzerland? How many hands does a single watch go through before arriving at a boutique store's velvet tray? More importantly, what are we paying Rolexes if the parts are manufactured in bulk abroad? The logo is said to be the remedy to the branding crisis, as the brand's reliance on outside vendors has destroyed the appearance of exclusivity. Collectors and irate influencers who once displayed their watches as status symbols are now silent or, worse, sarcastic, and resellers are getting rid of inventory they once held like stock as people begin to realize they're spending $15,000 on branding rather than craftsmanship. Online forums are overflowing with posts titled, "Is Rolex still worth it?" and "I sold my Rolex and bought this instead." This isn't a decline in public opinion. Rather, it's a reputational freefall, and if Rolex doesn't change the narrative soon, the damage could be irreversible. However, the luxury landscape has changed and isn't going back. Once upon a time, owning a Rolex meant you'd made it. It was the ultimate reward, a lifetime achievement unlocked. However, today's consumers aren't influenced by prestige. They've done the math, watched the factory exposes, and they know that a watch's production cost isn't even close to the price tag it's sold at. They also know that the margins are ridiculous and they're no longer playing along, and that shift is fueling a new kind of market. Chinese producers are now producing timepieces with nearly identical specifications. Thanks to TikTok, you may get sapphire crystal automatic movement steel casing for a fraction of the cost. Reddit and YouTube are two companies that are rapidly growing. Side-by-side comparisons are common, and since most people can't tell the difference, the issue is, why pay 10 times more if the craftsmanship is similar and the look is the same? Rolex can't afford for customers to keep asking, but the catch is that it's not just about cheaper alternatives, it's also about ethics. Today's consumers care about where things are made, want authenticity and transparency, and, most importantly, don't want to be duped. Therefore, when it is revealed that a Swiss masterpiece was actually put together in a Guangdong warehouse, it's not just bad press, that's betrayal, and it's igniting a consumer revolution that Rolex didn't anticipate. How is the company reacting? Rolex is frantically, and their next moves, known as a panic pivot, say it all. Consider that Rolex, a firm that has long gate-kept its products through elite-approved dealers, has built its first direct-to-consumer boutique in China. This is a significant change for decades. Long wait lists, limited releases, backdoor partnerships, and scarcity were all part of the strategy that allowed Rolex to prosper. However, the exclusivity model is now failing, and the company is aware of this by moving direct to China. The problem with Rolex reevaluating distribution is that once trust is lost, it's difficult to regain. According to reports, Rolex has started modifying their global distribution in an attempt to regain control over its largest and now most skeptical market. They want to monitor pricing, intercept the narrative, and restore trust. In private, Rolex is reviewing its alliances, cutting back on some approved dealers, and investigating new brand-controlled avenues. Translation: the Chinese manufacturers who revealed them aren't just talking. They're competing, having introduced alternative watch brands with strikingly similar designs and drastically reduced pricing. They're tightening the screws, and why wouldn't they? The million-dollar issue is whether it's too late. The next chapter in this story could determine Rolex's destiny in the luxury market, and it's not looking pretty. Rolex isn't simply protecting its image anymore, it's battling for life. Although they won't be the last, who will feel the fire next? The luxury industry is alarmed by this whole affair since it would expose a giant like Rolex for allegedly outsourcing production and unreasonably raising prices. It raises a harsh query. Who are the next luxury brands in fashion, jewelry, and accessories? Many of them have built their empires on the same formula: controlled scarcity, inflated mystique, and strategic storytelling. But in a world where factory workers can go viral with a single exposure and TikTok users can reverse engineer your markup, transparency is no longer optional. It's required. And the old tricks used in insert prestige country limited edition handcrafted excellence aren't working with today's buyers. They want production logs. They want to know where every stitch, every part, and every dollar goes, and if luxury brands can't provide it, they will be supplanted by brands that can. This is a shame not just for Rolex, but also for Hermès, Louis Vuitton, Cartier, and any brand that still cling to the illusion that exclusivity alone is enough to justify five-figure price tags, because the new luxury is about honesty rather than status, and that change is upending the entire industry. The revelation of manufacturing practices and the ensuing price changes by Rolex may mark a turning point in the luxury sector where value and transparency are prioritized as customers seek greater authenticity. Brands will need to change to keep their prestigious market positions.